The Empress threw wine in my face before the entire court. 200 Keth'vari nobles watched in perfect silence as crimson liquid dripped from my chin onto the white marble floor. Not one of them moved. Not one of them breathed. I simply stood there, letting it run down my neck, staining the borrowed formal coat that had taken me 3 months to afford. "You dare," Empress Vaelith hissed, her silver skin luminous with rage, "to answer my summons? You, a human? A dock worker from a species that hasn't even colonized its second world?" I wiped my face with the back of my hand. "You sent for me, your radiance." 17 times. The court rippled with whispers. Keth'vari communication was subtle. A shift in posture, a change in the luminescence of their skin. But even I could read their shock. No one spoke to the Empress of the Burning Worlds like that. No one. "I sent for you," she said, descending 3 steps from her throne, "because my advisors insist I must marry. The law demands it before my 3rd century. And every noble house, every warrior clan, every merchant prince in 40 systems has refused me." She stopped 2 paces away. This close I could see the faint scars along her jaw, the ones the court pretended didn't exist. Battle scars, I'd heard. From the civil war that killed her family. "They fear me," she continued, her voice dropping to something almost private. "They fear what I am. What I've done. So my council in their infinite wisdom suggested I look beyond our species. Find some disposable creature willing to wear a crown and die quietly when convenient. And you chose a dock worker. I chose the only applicant." Her laugh was bitter, broken. 400 species in the compact. Thousands of nobles, diplomats, ambitious fools. And one human cargo handler put his name forward. Why? I thought about lying. I thought about some diplomatic answer that might preserve my life. Instead, I told her the truth. "Because I saw you. 3 years ago when your ship docked at Meridian Station. You walked through the cargo bay while your guards negotiated tariffs. A child, a human child, had wandered in from the refugee sector. Lost. Crying. Your guards moved to remove her. I paused. You picked her up yourself. Carried her to the security office. Stayed until her mother came." The Empress's luminescence flickered. "Loss. Surprise?" I couldn't read it. "You didn't know anyone was watching," I said. "You weren't performing for a court. That was you. The real you. And I thought, someone like that shouldn't have to be alone." The silence stretched. I watched her face cycle through emotions I couldn't name. Her people felt things differently, processed them through light and subtle biochemistry rather than expression. But her eyes, dark and ancient, stayed fixed on mine. "You'll die before our 1st anniversary," she said finally. "My enemies will poison you. My allies will arrange accidents. My own body chemistry may kill you. Keth'vari are not meant to bond with humans. Our pheromones, our touch, our very presence is toxic over time. I know. You know." She laughed again, but it was different this time. Smaller. "You know, and yet you stand there, covered in wine, in a coat that doesn't fit, and you don't run. I've spent my whole life being told what I can't do, your radiance. Can't leave Earth. Can't get licensed. Can't amount to anything. I'm tired of can't. If I'm going to die, I'd rather die trying to be something than live being nothing." She studied me for a long moment. Then she turned to her court, her voice ringing across the marble hall. "Prepare the binding ceremony. I will marry this human." The uproar was immediate. Lord Keth'vari, her senior advisor, stepped forward, his skin blazing with outrage. "Your radiance, this is madness. A human cannot what?" She turned on him, and I saw it then. The warrior they all feared. Cannot survive? Cannot be worthy? Cannot love? She let that word hang in the air, forbidden and heavy. "You've all made your choices. Now live with mine." She extended her hand to me. Her skin was cool, almost electric against my palm. "What is your name, human?" "Marcus." "Marcus Chen." "Marcus Chen." She tested it, her accent strained around the syllables. "Come. We have much to prepare, and apparently very little time." The Keth'vari didn't sleep the way humans did. They entered a meditative state, their luminescence dimming to almost nothing, their consciousness drifting in patterns I couldn't comprehend. Which meant that at 3 a.m. Meridian Standard Time, I was alone in the quarters they'd assigned me, staring at a ceiling made of living crystal. Tomorrow, I would marry an empress. The door chimed softly. I sat up, expecting a guard, perhaps an assassin. Instead, a small Keth'vari woman entered. Elderly by their standards, her silver skin muted to pewter, her eyes wise and measuring. "You are awake," she observed. "Hard to sleep when everyone in a 40-system empire wants you dead." She made a sound that might have been laughter. "I am Vaelith, the Empress's nurse. Her mother's nurse before that. I changed her wrappings when she was newly emerged, and I held her when she burned her family's bodies after the war." She settled into a chair across from me, moving with the careful grace of great age. "I would know who my child binds herself to. I'm no one. A cargo handler. Yes. I've read your file. Marcus Chen. Born in the Denver reclamation zone. Mother died when you were 7. Industrial accident. Father drank himself to death by the time you were 12. You raised yourself in the labor camp, saved enough for passage off-world, spent 15 years hauling freight across compact space. She paused. You've never hurt anyone who didn't hurt you first. You've given money to refugees when you barely had enough for food. You once spent 3 days in Meridian's brig for refusing to unload a shipment you suspected contained trafficked persons. I said nothing. Why do you want to marry her, Marcus Chen? The truth. Not the poetry you gave the court. I looked at my hands, calloused, scarred. The hands of someone who'd worked every day of his life, because she's like me. Vaelith's luminescence shifted. Explain. Everyone looks at her and sees power. The Empress. The warrior. The monster who ended a civil war by burning 3 moons. I shook my head. But I see someone who lost everyone. Someone who built walls because the alternative was breaking. Someone who's been alone so long she's forgotten what it feels like to be held. You presume much. Maybe. But I've been alone too. I know what it looks like. I know what it costs. I met her eyes. I'm not looking for power. I don't want her throne or her empire or her armies. I saw her that day with that little girl and I thought, there's someone worth knowing. Worth loving. Even if it's hard. Even if it hurts. Vaelith was silent for a long moment. Then she rose slowly and crossed to stand before me. The binding ceremony is not symbolic, Marcus Chen. Our people bond through chemistry, through touch, through the exchange of essence. When Vaelith binds to you, she will begin producing hormones attuned to your biology. It will change her. Make her vulnerable in ways she has never been. If you betray her, if you hurt her, she will not recover. She will fade, as her mother faded when her father died. I won't betray her. You say that now. But you don't know what's coming. The assassination attempts. The political sabotage. The nights when she wakes screaming from memories of war. The days when she cannot bear to be touched because her own skin reminds her of everyone she's lost. Vaelith leaned close. Can you love someone through that, human? Can you stay when staying costs you everything? I thought about my mother. The way she smiled even when she was exhausted. The way she held me after nightmares, whispering that everything would be okay, even when she knew it wouldn't be. My mother worked herself to death, I said quietly. 16-hour days in the reclamation plants, breathing poison so I could eat. She never complained. Never stopped. Never left me, even when leaving would have been easier. I swallowed. I don't know if I can be what Vaelith needs. But I know I can try. I know I can stay. I know I can choose her every day, even when it's hard. Because that's what love is. Not a feeling. A choice. 1,000 small choices, made over and over, until they become who you are. Vaelith studied me for a long, measuring moment. Then slowly, she pressed her palm to my forehead, a gesture I didn't recognize, but that felt like benediction. Perhaps, she said softly, there is more to humans than we knew. She left without another word. When I finally slept, I dreamed of silver light, and for the first time in years, I wasn't alone. The binding ceremony was nothing like a human wedding. We stood in a chamber deep beneath the palace, carved from living crystal that pulsed with bioluminescence. No guests. No witnesses except Vaelith and Lord Keth'vari, who had insisted on attending, his hostility barely concealed beneath formal neutrality. Vaelith wore no crown, no jewelry, no ornamentation of any kind. Just a simple shift of woven light that left her arms and neck bare. I wore the same, human-adapted feeling, exposed and inadequate. The binding is simple, she said, her voice echoing in the chamber. We exchange essence. Blood and light. It cannot be undone. It should not be done lightly. I understand. Do you? She stepped closer, and I saw her hands trembling slightly, the first sign of uncertainty I'd ever seen from her. Marcus, I have not been kind to you. The wine. The words. I wanted you to run. Wanted you to prove that you were like everyone else. That you would abandon me when the cost became clear. But I didn't. No. Her luminescence flickered, chaotic, beautiful. You didn't. And now I don't know what to do with you. I've been alone so long. I've forgotten how to be anything else. I reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. My fingers brushed her hand, and she shivered. From my touch, or from something else, I couldn't tell. Then we'll figure it out together, I said. That's what marriage is, isn't it? 2 people who don't know what they're doing, trying anyway. She laughed. A real laugh, small and surprised. Is that what humans believe? It's what I believe. The binding itself was painful. Not physically. Though there was that, the ritual cut on our palms, the mingling of blood. But emotionally. When her essence touched mine, I felt her. Really felt her. Centuries of loneliness. The weight of crowns and corpses. The desperate, screaming need to be seen, to be known, to be loved for something other than power. And she felt me. All of it. The boy crying in the labor camps. The young man who learned to never hope because hope hurt too much. Fate handler who looked at an empress and saw someone worth dying for. When it ended we stood gasping, tears running down both our faces. Well, Vaelith managed finally. That was more than I expected. Yeah. I wiped my eyes, leaving smears of mixed blood on my cheek. Yeah, it was. She looked at me, really looked with eyes that had seen empires rise and fall, and slowly, hesitantly, reached out to touch my face. You're strange, Marcus Chen, so I've been told. You don't fear me. No, you should. But she was smiling now, faintly, like she'd forgotten how, and was just remembering. Everyone should, maybe. But I've never been very good at doing what I should. Lord Keth'vari cleared his throat. Your radiance, the binding is complete. The documentation can wait. Vaelith didn't look away from me. Everything can wait. For the first time in a very long time. I want to just be still. She took my hand, properly this time, her fingers interlacing with mine, and led me out of the chamber, leaving the witnesses behind. Her skin was cool against mine, strange and electric, but I was already getting used to it. I was already getting used to her. The first assassination attempt came 3 weeks after the wedding. I woke choking, paralyzed, my lungs refusing to draw breath. Beside me, Vaelith was awake instantly, her luminescence flaring as she pulled me upright, pressed something cold against my neck, and screamed for guards in a language I couldn't understand. The next few hours were a blur. Medics. Antidotes. Lord Keth'vari's grim face as he explained that someone had introduced a human-specific neurotoxin into the palace ventilation system. Targeted. Precise. Professional. House Vaelith, Vaelith said flatly. They've opposed my rule since the war. They hoped that killing my consort would destabilize me, make me appear weak. Did it work? I asked, my voice still raw. What do you think? I thought about the way she'd held me while I couldn't breathe. The terror in her eyes carefully hidden from everyone but me. The slight tremor in her hands even now. I think, I said carefully, that you're scared. Not of appearing weak. Of losing someone. Again. Her luminescence flickered, the Keth'vari equivalent of a flinch. You presume too much. I'm your husband. I'm supposed to presume. That is not. She stopped, turned away, her shoulders rigid. You should not have survived. The toxin was designed to be undetectable. By the time symptoms appeared, it should have been too late. But somehow, impossibly, you lived. The medics cannot explain it. Lucky, I guess. No. She turned back, and there was something raw in her expression. Something she'd never shown the court. Not lucky. The binding. Our essence is connected now. When you started to die, I felt it. Felt you slipping away. And I pulled you back. I stared at her. You can do that? I didn't know I could. Her voice dropped to a whisper. I shouldn't have been able to. The binding is meant for politics, for alliances. It's not supposed to be real. It's not supposed to matter. But it does. Yes. She sank onto the edge of the bed, suddenly looking exhausted. Ancient. Yes, it does. And that terrifies me more than any assassination ever could. I sat up slowly, ignoring the weakness in my limbs, and moved to sit beside her. Not touching. Just present. After my mother died, I said quietly, I swore I'd never care about anyone again. It hurt too much. Losing someone you love. It breaks something in you, something that never quite heals. I paused. But then I spent 15 years alone. And I learned that the breaking wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the emptiness. The going through life without anyone to share it with. The knowing that if I died tomorrow, no one would notice. Vaelith was silent, her luminescence dimmed to almost nothing. I'd rather risk breaking, I said, than go back to that emptiness. I'd rather have 3 months with you than 30 years alone. And if that's foolish, if that's human weakness, then so be it. I'm tired of being wise. I'm tired of being safe. I just want this. You. Whatever time we have. She turned to look at me, and I saw something I'd never seen before in her eyes. Vulnerability. Real, unguarded vulnerability. They'll keep trying to kill you, she said. I know. I cannot always save you. I know that too. And you stay anyway. It wasn't a question. I stay anyway. She reached out slowly, her hand finding mine. You are the strangest creature I have ever known, Marcus Chen. I'll take that as a compliment. It wasn't. She stopped, something almost like a smile crossing her face. Perhaps it was. Perhaps you've ruined me for everyone else. Good, I said, that was the plan. She laughed then, a real laugh surprised out of her, and leaned against my shoulder. Her skin was cool, alien, and I could feel the faint pulse of her biology trying to sync with mine. It should have felt wrong. Dangerous. Instead, it felt like coming home. The council meets tomorrow, she murmured. They'll demand action against House Vaelith. War, probably. Execution of their leaders. What do you want? She was quiet for a long moment. I want to stop fighting. I've been fighting since I was younger than you. Against enemies, against allies, against myself. I'm tired, Marcus. So tired. Then maybe there's another way. There is no other way. The Keth'vari understand only strength. Then show them a different kind of strength. I turned to face her. You said your people feared you because of what you are. The warrior. The monster. What if you showed them something else? What if you showed them mercy? Mercy is weakness. Mercy is the hardest thing in the universe, I said. It takes more strength to forgive than to destroy. More courage to build than to burn. Your people don't need another warrior, Vaelith. They need someone to show them another way. She stared at me, her dark eyes searching my face for something I couldn't name. And if they see mercy as weakness, they rise against me, then I'll stand beside you. Whatever comes. You could die. I could die tomorrow. I could have died 3 weeks ago. I'm choosing to live anyway. To live with you. To build something worth building. I squeezed her hand. Whatever happens, we face it together. That's what this is. That's what we are. Her luminescence shifted, slowly, from the dark of despair to something warmer. Something almost like hope. Together, she repeated, as if testing the word. Together. She didn't respond with words. Instead, she leaned forward and pressed her forehead to mine, a Keth'vari gesture I'd learned meant trust. Complete, absolute trust. We stayed like that until morning. Council meeting was a disaster. Not because of the arguments about House Valkyrie, those I expected, but because, in the middle of Lord Keth'varan's demands for immediate military action, Vaelith announced that she was pregnant. The room went silent. Every Keth'vari present froze, their luminescence flickering wildly. Even Vithani looked shocked. That's not possible, Lord Keth'varan said finally. Keth'vari cannot reproduce with other species. Our biology has apparently adapted. Vaelith's voice was steady, but I could see her hands gripping the arms of her throne. The medics confirmed it this morning. The binding has changed something. Or perhaps the pregnancy is changing the binding. They're not sure. This is unprecedented, another counselor breathed. A hybrid heir will be the heir to the burning worlds. Vaelith cut in. Will be my child. Will be protected by every law and every sword in this empire. Her luminescence flared, and for a moment I saw the warrior they all feared. Does anyone wish to challenge this? No one spoke. After the council dispersed, I found Vaelith alone in her private garden, a small space filled with plants that glowed faintly in the perpetual twilight of her world. She was sitting on a bench, her hands pressed to her stomach, her expression something I couldn't read. You didn't tell me, I said quietly, sitting beside her. I didn't know how. She wouldn't look at me. I hoped it was a mistake. A malfunction in the medical systems. Keth'vari and humans are not meant to create life together. Our biologies are too different. And yet there is something growing inside me. Something new. Something that shouldn't exist. Her voice cracked slightly. Something that terrifies me more than any war ever could. I reached over and took her hand. Are you happy? She finally looked at me, and I saw tears in her eyes, Keth'vari tears, silver and luminescent, trailing down her cheeks like liquid starlight. I don't know. I don't know how to be happy. I've spent so long just surviving, just enduring. The idea of creating something, bringing something new into this universe, something innocent, something helpless. She shook her head. What if I fail? What if I'm the same monster to my child that the universe was to me? You won't be. How do you know? Because you're already worried about it. I lifted her hand and pressed it to my chest. The monsters don't worry. The monsters don't care. You care so much it's tearing you apart. That's how I know you'll be a good mother. That's how I know our child will be loved. Our child. She said the words like a prayer. Our child. Human and Keth'vari. An impossibility. Seems fitting, I said. We're pretty impossible too. She laughed then through her tears and leaned into me. I held her, carefully, gently, feeling the strange double pulse of her heart, and something else. Something tiny and new, beneath my palm. I'm scared, she whispered. Me too, but you're staying, always. I pressed a kiss to her forehead. Always. The birth was difficult. 30 hours of labor. Medical teams from 3 species. Moments where I thought I'd lose her, lose them both, lose everything I'd spent the last year building. But Vaelith was a warrior. She'd survived wars and assassinations and the weight of an empire. She survived this too. And at the end, crying and exhausted and more beautiful than I'd ever seen her, she held our daughter in her arms. She was tiny, smaller than a human newborn, larger than a Keth'vari emergence. Her skin was silver gray, somewhere between my pale flesh and Vaelith's luminescence. Her eyes, when she opened them, were dark like her mother's, but with flecks of brown that she could only have gotten from me. She's perfect, Vaelith breathed. She's ours, I said, and that was the same thing. We named her Vaelith, Hopelight, in the old Keth'vari tongue. A name that hadn't been used since before the Civil War. A name for a new beginning. Court's reaction was mixed. Some saw her as an abomination, a corruption of pure Keth'vari blood. Others saw her as a symbol, proof that their empire could change, could grow, could become something other than what it had been. House Valkyrie, interestingly, was among the first to send gifts. They're terrified, Vaelith explained, watching our daughter sleep in her crystal cradle. Not of me. Of what she represents. A bridge between species. A future they can't control. Is that a bad thing? It's a dangerous thing. She turned to look at me, and I saw something in her eyes I'd learned to recognize. Not fear, but determination. Marcus, there's something I need to tell you. That sounds ominous. The medics have completed their analysis of Vaelith, of the binding, of us. She took a breath. The changes to my biology, the ones that allowed the pregnancy, they're permanent, and they're spreading, to you. I frowned. What do you mean, your lifespan? The human lifespan is so short, a century barely. But the binding has changed something. You're not becoming Keth'vari, but you're not entirely human anymore either. She paused. The medics estimate you'll live another 400 years. Perhaps more. I stared at her. 400, I know. It's a lot to process. That's not, I laughed, surprising myself. Vaelith, I came here expecting to die within a year. You told me I'd die before our first anniversary. And now you're telling me I might live for centuries? Yes. With me. Her luminescence flickered uncertainly. If you want. If I want. I crossed to her, took her hands in mine. I came here with nothing. No family. No future. No reason to keep living except stubbornness. And now I have you. I have our daughter. I have a purpose, a place, a home. I lifted her hands and kissed them. You could tell me I had to spend eternity in a coal mine and I'd say yes as long as you were there. That's very romantic. And deeply impractical. I'm a deeply impractical person. She laughed. A real laugh, full and warm, and pulled me into an embrace. Her skin was cool against mine, familiar now, beloved. I could feel her heartbeat, strong and steady, and beneath it the faint echo of our bond, humming like a chord that had finally found its harmony. I love you, she said. The words were awkward in her mouth. Keth'vari didn't say them often, maybe ever, but she said them anyway. I love you too. You're still strange. And you're still terrifying. We make a good pair. The door chimed softly. Bethany entered, her ancient face creased with a smile I'd never seen before. The court is assembled, she said. They're waiting to meet the princess. Vaelith straightened, her expression shifting to the imperial mask I'd learned to see through. But she kept hold of my hand. Then let's not keep them waiting. We walked together into the great hall, our daughter in Vaelith's arms. The assembled nobles, Keth'vari, human ambassadors, representatives from a dozen other species, fell silent as we approached the throne. I thought about the man I'd been a year ago. A cargo handler with nothing to lose. A fool who answered an empress's summons because he'd seen her pick up a crying child. You'll die before our first anniversary, she'd said. She'd been wrong. I hadn't died. I'd lived. Really lived for the first time in my existence. And now I had centuries ahead of me. Centuries of arguments and challenges and midnight feedings and political negotiations and quiet moments in crystal gardens, holding the hand of someone who'd learned to love me. It wasn't the life I'd planned. It wasn't anything I'd ever imagined. It was better. Vaelith raised our daughter for the court to see, and the hall erupted in the Keth'vari equivalent of applause, a harmonic resonance that made the very walls sing. Citizens of the burning worlds, she announced, her voice carrying to every corner. I present to you Vaelith, princess of the eternal flame, daughter of two worlds, hope of our united future. The resonance swelled. I stood beside my wife and daughter, a human among aliens, a dockworker among emperors, and I smiled. Against all odds, against every prediction, against the weight of history and biology and centuries of war, we had built something new, something impossible, something beautiful. And we were just getting started. YouTube description, 1,000 characters. Empress Vaelith of the burning worlds needs a spouse, by law, by politics, and by a court that's terrified of her. So they summon a disposable outsider, Marcus Chen, a human dock worker with nothing but a borrowed coat and stubborn courage. In front of the entire court, she humiliates him. Then gives him the warning that should send anyone running, you'll die before our first anniversary. Marcus marries her anyway, because he once saw the Empress carry a lost human child to safety when no one was watching, and he recognized the truth beneath the crown. A woman built from war, scars, and loneliness. Assassins come. Poisons follow. The court demands blood. But Marcus offers something the Keth'vari don't understand. Mercy as strength, love as a daily choice. Then the impossible happens, Vaelith is pregnant. A hybrid heir becomes a threat and a symbol at the same time, forcing an empire to face what it wants to become. And when the doctors finally reveal, the binding didn't kill Marcus. It changed him, granting him centuries beside the Empress who expected him to die. An HFI sci-fi romance about surviving the cost of love, and building a future that shouldn't exist. Key keywords: HFI, HFI CFI, Alien Empress, Human Consort, Forbidden Marriage, Imperial Court, Political Intrigue, Assassination Attempt, Poisoned Husband, Bonding Ceremony, Alien Pheromones, Interspecies Romance, Hybrid Child, Alien Princess, Heir to the Throne, Mercy vs. Vengeance, Empire Reform, Found Family, Space Drama, Humanity Fuck, yeah, Sci-Fi Romance.